What's up, guys? I am here with our blue belt and resident doctor, as we call him, Andrew Ecker. He's not a doctor, but you're a nurse practitioner.
Yep.
So from day one, he's been the guy that we've all kind of gone to talk about, what's going on with the coronavirus and anything that's like at the forefront of like treatments and things. Let's get this thing refocused. So what I wanted to do is just give you guys the benefit that I've gotten for these past like few weeks, definitely in terms of like supplements and just like what you can do, like easy little things you could do to set yourself up to just be a little bit more prepared should you encounter the coronavirus. And luckily it's all good lifestyle things that you should be doing anyway, I think. So I'm going to start with a couple easy questions for Mr. Ecker here. First and foremost, why are you qualified to speak on this?
Well, I've been an ER nurse practitioner now for the last 4 or 5 years. Before that, I worked as an emergency room nurse and a paramedic for the last 10. Throughout the course of this time, since COVID-19 started to kind of take steam and hit, one of the first things that I did was, kind of immerse myself in the literature. And then also I took a contract up in New York at a medical center in Brooklyn. And I worked full-time on the intensive care COVID unit floors, exclusively taking care of patients that were suffering from COVID-19 in our multidisciplinary settings under our pulmonary group.
This was like March, April?
April into May. So
you were there for like the peak?
Yeah, we were there during the peak, and then during the descent of that peak as things kind of started to slow down a little bit. That was a tough time.
So let me ask, is COVID a hoax?
No, it's very, very, very real.
Yeah.
Very real.
So
very real.
I was texting Andrew throughout this entire thing, and especially him being on the front line, and it's invaluable having access to somebody who is right there seeing it. And I would always hope that he would return my text with some better news, but the truth is, March, April, this thing got real ugly.
Yeah,
right?
very much so.
Especially where you were in New York.
Very much so. Very much so. We would go from one code to the next code to the next, and just when you're finished with that one, in comes another patient that's in dire straits as well, and it was numbers like no one had ever seen before, and the virus was beating us at every turn. It was smarter than us at every single turn, and then it just kind of the cases started to dissipate. And a lot of that probably has to do with, the social isolation and distancing measures. But I think that the big thing to start to take away is that, we also have to now dissect and look at the population that was affected and in the most, dire straits by COVID-19, and understand a little bit of where this virus is so dangerous for them and why for some population it seems to be, less dangerous and also, less transmittable. And we're starting to gain a little bit more understanding, a little bit more traction as it goes. But, just like anything else, these things are changing in real time. And both the guidelines and advice that you're getting sometimes is a couple of weeks behind where the science is showing.
Yeah. What do you watch the news at all?
I try not to.
Never, just for like shits and giggles?
Yeah, I mean, I try and pick my news sources very carefully.
Yeah, I know. So we made the mistake, like right off the bat, we were watching CNN. And I got to tell you, like, after watching CNN for a few weeks and then getting some actual like data and like dissecting it a little bit on my own, like it's criminal. I think it's criminal. Like, there is no disputing how bad it got in New York. It decimated certain populations. But like you said, what we talk about a lot, like where do you think we are now, and what do you think should be the next couple of steps forward?
The numbers can't lie. The cases are declining across the state. I mean, the state of New Jersey does a really good job of making their information available and easy to digest and read. It talks about the number of positive cases. It talks about the number of ICU beds. It talks about what percentage of the ICU beds are occupied based on the region that we live in. In our region here, the occupation of ICU beds is very, very low, which is excellent. A lot of that has to do with the distancing measures that have been put in place, and also kind of recognizing what symptoms are to be alarming. One of the big things that is more commonplace than anything else, when I see a patient who comes into the emergency room who's sick, and I tell them they have to kind of stay home from work for the next day or so, so often I get told, "Oh, I can't do that. I'm not allowed to miss work. I'm not allowed to do this. I'm not allowed to do that." And I think that one of the things that this whole pandemic has put a highlight on is that when you don't feel good, you have to stay home. You are potentially a danger to someone else when you don't feel good, and this has really kind of brought that home because in the early throes of this virus, it was transmitting, we were showing transmission before people were symptomatic. We were showing, asymptomatic people that were potentially transmitting, and now they're not sure if that's very true. A whole lot of information that seems to get crossed. One of the things that I've taken away from it is that, number one, when you're sick, you stay home.
Dude,
stay home when you're sick.
Nobody's worse than the jiu-jitsu population.
Oh, we're terrible. We're so bad. See sniffles
coming in with the flu, coming in with staph.
Absolutely.
Hopefully this will scare the crap out of everybody enough to change it.
It is the hope. I mean, you will get in to train another day. It will be okay.
If somebody shows up sick now, we're just going to beat the crap.
100%. Yeah, but we have to use weapons so we can keep our distance.
Yeah.
But that's fine. But yeah, that is the big thing is that when you're not feeling good, you have to stay home. When if someone in your house isn't feeling good, even if you are, stay home. I mean, your wife is sick. Well, then you shouldn't be here either. You shouldn't be out at that restaurant. You should be at home and making sure that you yourself are not getting sick, and also maybe help her get better.
Yeah, she's all right. But here's where do we draw the line? So say Melissa's not sick, but her sister's sick, or like her sister's neighbor is sick. Where do you draw the line?
I mean, I guess that's
10 days ago the kids were there, but they didn't. Like, where do you?
Yeah, I guess that's a good question to ask. I don't know that I have the answer for it. I would tell you that if someone in your immediate close contact is ill in any fashion, any way, shape, or form, you yourself should also isolate with that person, because that is one of the easiest ways that we can help to stamp this thing out and help to stop the transmission and the spread. If Melissa's homesick, then you're homesick too, even if you feel okay. If my wife is homesick, I'm homesick too. And that has to be what the new normal is. Because previously the normal was, well, my wife is sick, I feel okay, I'm getting the hell out of the house and I'm not going back.
And that wasn't that dangerous then.
No, it wasn't. It was actually to be expected.
Yeah.
But now, now we have to, understand that there's a different element to this that we don't fully understand yet. And that, we have to take things like our own personal immunity and the illness and transmission of those around us very, very seriously.
Yeah. All right. So my next question: who is most at risk?
So the most at risk is going to be people who are immune compromised. Okay, so our patients that are receiving chemotherapy. If they're on any type of autoimmune drugs or support for that. Also, you have to look at people with a good amount of comorbid factors. Hypertension, obesity, diabetes, all of these things kind of play into that. Here in the jiu-jitsu community, we don't have a whole lot of folks who stick around a long time that have those risk factors about us. But some people initially, when they start, that is one of the things that they may be dealing with. But in the general population, hypertension, diabetes, obesity
hypertension is what?
High blood pressure. Yeah, people with high blood pressure are
generally a lifestyle.
Typically, it's a lifestyle. I mean, there's also going to be a genetic component to it as well. You can identify that typically at a younger age, but it's often lifestyle induced, and it kind of goes hand in hand with things like risks for heart disease, smoking, all the other things that you're.
I thought that was going to be the big thing. That would be the big call. The smoking wasn't a big factor.
I think that it's a factor, but I don't think that it has. I think that they're having a hard time kind of nailing it down. Like, this is it. This is the one key thing, because there are plenty of people who suffered and died of this virus that had never smoked a day in their life.
Yeah.
And they tend to be a little bit more on the advanced age side, greater than 65, especially those with the comorbid factors of the hypertension, diabetes, and obesity.
Age a nice way of saying somebody's old?
Yeah, that's definitely the way to say it. I don't know, man. I might get hit.
So let me ask you this. So you named a lot of comorbidities that seem to be lifestyle kind of things. So we've been talking about this from like day one. So when the shutdown was still pretty young, like when it was like 9 weeks in, I was like, what do you think how would it have changed the landscape of this thing if we had like a national health initiative within those first 9 weeks? Now it's comical because how many weeks in are we now?
We're 120 days almost, something like that.
So imagine if we had a national health initiative over 120 days.
Yeah, this is one of the great frustrations that I personally have as well. When these things were, when this was first coming out and first being released, and we were seeing the numbers come up, and especially when I was working in Brooklyn, I was under the assumption that 5% of every person that I knew was likely to contract this and possibly die. It's not the case. That's not the case. That's not what is going to happen, and they're already demonstrating that. And it does not downplay for 1 second how serious this is. A lot of lives are lost. People are, they're very sensitive about this topic right now because it often hits home.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people, know someone somewhere who have, contracted this disease, and it has been terrible. And I don't downplay that, but we locked all of our doors and shut ourselves in the hopes that this thing was just going to go away, and it's not going to just go away. We are going to live with the coronavirus. We live with it already. I mean, coronavirus NL63 is the common cold, but COVID-19 is not going anywhere. So there's going to be a part of us that has to learn how to live with it and learn how to take care of ourselves in spite of it, because locking all of the doors, despite it helping to slow the transmission, well, then another curve starts to elevate, and that's the curve of misinformation. That's the curve of of small business loss, of community disruption, and who knows what lock-ins are doing to the mental health aspect of our community and our children.
What about the immunity element? So like your immune system, does it thrive when it contacts other people, or is it need to contact other people?
I mean, I think that the jury may be out as to whether or not it thrives or needs to be on, needs to be in contact with others as part of as part of what the scientific community would say in that aspect. What I would tell you is that the immune system is like a muscle, and it can be strengthened, it can be, supported, it can also, take wear and tear and blows, like if you're overtraining.
Right.
So, for instance, if you are traveling all over the country, as part of your job, and you're in and out of airports, and you're getting a crappy hotel sleep, and you're eating fast food pizza all the time. And I'm not saying that this is anybody who has, who already has these medical conditions, these comorbid factors I talked about earlier. This could be an otherwise healthy person who is, on the run all the time, on the go, not getting proper sleep, and their immune system is going to take a hit from this. It's going to, and they may be somebody who becomes more susceptible and likely to then contract COVID-19 or any other type of virus or viral illness. They're just more susceptible to get sick, when they're feeling run down. So immune support and immune health are incredibly important, especially right now. So some ways in which we can do that, exercise, sunlight, proper nutrition, proper supplementation, that sort of thing that we don't get from our normal diet, and things that we, rely on for normal immunologic function.
All right, so here's the thing, though. Nobody knows what the hell that means.
Yeah.
So, like, So luckily, I think Rogan is doing everybody a huge service by having, Rhonda Patrick has become a friggin' celebrity. She's like a pop culture icon now.
Yeah, she's great.
I've been doing the vitamin D since she was on 6 years ago, which is huge. And I get a ton of sunlight. You can't tell by my sweet tan.
Yeah. It's glowing.
But explain that. Like, what if you're going to break it down? I think you have me, like, I was always doing the vitamin D, but you got me doing, like, C, zinc. Right? So
Absolutely.
if you could give somebody an easy cocktail.
Oh, yeah. So an easy cocktail that I would always recommend for anybody is going to be a multivitamin with adequate amounts of, your B vitamins, your vitamin C, vitamin A, and folic acid as well. Those particular minerals and vitamins help to support your immunologic function. In addition to that, even back when COVID was in full thrust, back in like the March and the April, we were giving every single patient, whether or not they were intubated or if they were awake, they were getting zinc and they were getting vitamin C tablets, and it was to help to support their own body's immune function. So I take zinc every single day, zinc and manganese, and I also take omega-3s. Because liver health is incredibly important. And then I also supplement with vitamin D3. Vitamin D3 is synthesized into the liver, into one of the active metabolites. It helps to support immunologic function. It helps to support insulin sensitivity, which, as if we know what insulin sensitivity does, it drives down your body's resting blood sugars and avoids, hyperglycemia, which can also be deleterious for health and immune effects. And I try and get a really good amount of exercise every single day in addition to those supplements.
That's not comfortable.
No, it's not comfortable. People don't like that because it's not comfortable.
One of my favorite things is, favorite in like a horrible, heartbreaking kind of way, but I saw early on in the pandemic, there was an article out of like University of Virginia or something, and they found an enzyme that your body produces from exercise, aerobic exercise, and it like helps protect your lungs specifically against like typical coronaviruses. And then the next part of the article was scientists are like struggling to find a way to mass produce this. And I'm like, how could we mass produce this enzyme that your body produces through exercise on a large scale? Oh, I know. How about everybody freaking exercises?
That'd be one way to do it. Yeah.
Because it hurts, because it's uncomfortable. So the way my brain works, and I wish I could shake people sometimes, it's easy for me to be like, do I want to die on a respirator, or do I want to get up and go for a jog and like eat food that's better for me?
Well, I mean,
like, how do we shake people?
I think that's kind of where we were talking about that, that 100, we're at 120 days, and what people are listening to is the doom and gloom every day. They're listening to the stories about, just today, one of the articles headlines, you touch on the news feed, and it's 30 states reported a surge in coronavirus cases.
Do you notice there's not a surge in deaths?
I haven't seen that. That's the other thing, is I don't know enough to know whether or not the death number is also rising in association with that. Is it rising because we're testing more frequently, which is a good thing. I mean, we should be identifying people who are positive as often as possible. So testing is, the fact that it's becoming more mainstream and people have an increased access to those tests is really important, because once you identify someone who has it, you can then contact trace, and you can help to kind of slow that person's spread.
You like the contact tracing?
I do like the contact tracing. It's hard.
But what about like America?
Well, I mean, that's part of the problem is that, when you talk about the contact tracing, you need to make sure that you have a comprehensive program in which to do that. Yeah. And, unfortunately, that only works when, you have people that are going to follow directions with it.
Yeah, but what does contact tracing look like? So I get a phone call from a state representative, and they're like, first off, if my phone, I'll be honest, if my phone gets that update, that's like, I'm not going to allow that.
Right.
Does that mean I won't answer the phone if I get a call? No. But does that mean if I walked past somebody in Whole Foods who ended up testing positive, that I have to quarantine for 14 days?
No, and they're
now, I have
now
to go and get a nasal swab?
No, and they're now showing that, like, those types of incidental, like, passerby contact is not seen to be how it's being transmitted. And again, like, I'm not, up to date on the most recent things that are involved in this. And if you talk to one authority on it, they'll tell you one thing, and then one will tell you a different one. But it doesn't seem to be like, passing people in the Whole Foods is going to, give you the coronavirus. You're indoors, so if someone is actively coughing and sneezing in the direction of your mouth, that's probably a bad deal. But also, wearing masks in public is not the worst thing in the world for us either. If I am not wearing any pants and you're not wearing any pants, and then I pee on your leg is going to get wet. But if you're wearing pants, your leg gets a little less wet. And if we're both wearing pants, no one's leg gets wet but mine.
Perfect.
So that's, to me, that's masks in Whole Foods.
Look, I get the mask. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't have a musket and I don't have a tri-corner hat. I like the mask idea.
Right.
The idea of the contact tracing scares me just because it's so. It just seems to me invasive for very little benefit. Because we are wearing masks everywhere we go.
Sure.
But I asked you this: what if you had the magic wand and you're going to wave it? Like, what happens next? What can we do to move forward? Like, what's the secret that we're not implementing? What do you think?
There isn't a secret. I don't think that there is going to be a magical solution to it. I think it's understanding that this is now a part of our society. So you have to ask yourself, what kind of society are we going to live in moving forward? If you are not comfortable being in public around other people, then stay home. And you should have the option to do so, both from your job or from your family. No one should be pressuring you to be in a social environment where you're uncomfortable.
The argument, I got into a Facebook argument.
No, it's okay.
That's my new favorite pastime.
Yeah, right? You're doing great. You got to stop reading the comments.
The guy was like, the first thing most people say is, man, just stay home then. Like, if you're that scared, stay home because, my business is shutting down. Businesses are shutting down and people are struggling and there's depression and we're getting to that point maybe. I'm saying maybe because I don't really know that the cure is worse than the disease, right? You've heard that.
Yeah.
And then everybody's always like, stay home. But then this guy's argument was like, yeah, but then you go out and you get my delivery guy sick. And when he comes in, what about that argument? You don't really get sick that way, right? So
it doesn't seem to be that way.
We were spraying our groceries with Clorox.
Yep.
And that
tasted delicious, I'm sure.
I loved it.
Yeah. The avocados probably went down real good. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that's not the case, right?
No, that doesn't seem to be the case at all. And contact transmission from on old surfaces, foods, does not seem to be, another main method of transmission. The main method of transmission appears to be close encounters with droplets. That seems to be
maybe you pass somebody's guard and you're inside control and they go for a buggy choke and your face is in their armpit.
Yeah, for a little bit. And, if that person has COVID, they're leaving with COVID.
All right, so I want to ask you this. How do we move forward? So you're more aware of the dangers of this more than anybody. But I could be wrong. My perspective might be skewed, but it seems like this is a different thing than it was in March and April. Is that because we're the people who are most vulnerable are protecting themselves better because they're scared?
I don't know that they're really scared. Quite frankly, I've met quite a few people who are exceptionally vulnerable, but they don't seem to be very scared of it at all.
My dad has locked himself away and will not leave the house. And his thing is this: my dad has done a lot of crazy things in his life, and he's he just retired. He retired early because His thing is, I've done so many stupid things and abused my body. And if that takes me out, so be it.
Right.
I dig that grade.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want this to be
This can't be the thing.
So he's riding it out. But what about us? I thought people would be more hesitant to come back, and people are chomping at the bit to be on the mat.
I think that the reason there's a couple pieces to that. Number one, it's a community here, and when you're not part, when you feel like you're exiled from your community, for lack of a better word, the mental anguish of that alone kind of makes you weigh out the pros and cons of what would be potentially considered dangerous. In my opinion, when it comes back to being in gyms or jiu-jitsu academies or anything else, you enter into a social contract with the people that you're engaged with, and to me, that is what life is moving forward. When you are here, you know that being here may potentially expose you to the risk of illness from someone else, because we're all going to start having to rely on each other. And, I'm relying on you to be truthful with both yourself if you're not feeling well, and that of your family who you live with and people that you've been in close, intimate contact with. I'm relying on you to report yourself that, I've been around somebody who's not feeling great. I shouldn't be there. I'm doing the same thing. If I'm not feeling good, if my kids aren't feeling good, if their mom isn't feeling good, if my wife isn't feeling good, then I'm not going to be here either. That's the new normal of what things need to be moving forward, in my opinion. because it's, you have to be able to trust more. What did he say now?
Steve's talking trash.
It's not that hard. But yeah, I mean that's the new moving forward here. I mean, when we're here at at the academy, cleaning the the people who I'm cleaning with, I trust them that they're not feeling sick, that they feel okay, that they are not at any risk. They're doing the same for me, and I also acknowledge that if maybe they're not 100% truthful, or maybe they don't know, or they just haven't picked up on it yet, that I might get sick too, and I'm taking that risk because the benefit of being here, the benefit of being around other people, being outside in the sunshine, getting the exercise, training, making sure that I'm strong. That's more important to me right now than the potential risk of passing it from someone that I trust. I trust my body. I trust my immune system. I trust that even if I was to get this thing, that I would be able to recover from it. It may not be the case. I understand that. But I also trust in the fact that I take good, genuine care of myself every single day, and I encourage my family members and my friends to do the same.
Man, it seems like, I don't know if you saw this article, they use the numbers out of Spain, which the mortality rate in Spain is actually pretty high.
Yeah.
But they were saying the likelihood of dying in a given year for our age group is actually higher than the chances of dying from COVID.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't want to be, I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole for a little bit, only because I got tired of seeing the news and what the doom and gloom and the scary.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to point out. And then it got to the point, though, where people are like, you're like a hoaxer? I'm like, I am not. But what I do is I'm constantly weighing these things. And I know who I am, what my body is capable of, and I'm assessing a risk. And I know the risk is not zero, but I know that the risk driving home is pretty great, too. Especially in friggin' Jersey on Route 73. So what do? I hide? Do I join the elevator union and shut down the academy? No. I think for me personally and for all of us, I've got a little bit added responsibility because it's almost like I have to make a decision for like 300 people because, they trust their leadership to help make up their mind sometimes, as they should, because I'm biased, but I'm not a fool. I'm weighing my risks all the time, and like what you said, I would never do it for like privacy reasons. But if you saw the amount of messages I've gotten from parents and adults about the depression and the anxiety that they've gotten in the last 3 months from not training, it's the best thing we ever did was we let Scarlett and Avery start playing with kids like 3 weeks in. Yeah,
absolutely. Just over like the last couple of weeks, Jack and Sam have gotten to play with a couple of kids in the neighborhood. And the turn from, picking at each other, like, just being bored with riding their bike around the block with one another, the same thing, it like elevated them exponentially. And then being able to be back here, they were so excited to be able to see Jackson, Keno, and Sophia and those guys. The moment they got here, it was like, letting caged animals out. Like
I say it's like they just got saved from the pound. Like the dog on death row at the pound.
Yeah.
It's great.
Every
when
kid.
one of the kids comes back, and it's happening very slowly. It's very slow, controlled trickle on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
We're not opening up the floodgates, and every time the kid comes in for the first time, it's like, it's just. But what people are not pointing out is that it's the same thing for the adults.
Yeah, very much so.
Maybe even
very
more.
Much so.
Maybe the adults need even more. So the idea is we need to continue to assess and weigh things. That is a calculated risk. And the word risk, I think, is there's risk in everything. Man. There's risk in eating a banana. You might choke and you might die.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the other piece of this is we may encounter another surge, soon or within the next couple of months, especially when flu season starts wrapping in at the same time. And, things may have to get scaled back at that time. But in the interim, when there's progress, we're allowed to embrace the progress, in my opinion.
You need to fill your soul back up.
Yeah,
you need to
a little
fill your
bit.
heart
Like,
back
get me
up.
through until we know that we have to, when the risk becomes too high and we have to start bringing it back down again. I mean, that's one of the big things to me right now is like we are at this point now where every single day the numbers are declining, the death rate is declining. So then we got to loosen our grip a little bit, and we got to start embracing the things that, make us whole, make us healthy. it doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu. It should be, but it needs to be things like getting regular exercise. And it's hard for people to work out at home. It's really hard. You got a million things to do when you're around the house. And not all of us have El Capitan sitting around our porch. You should, but they're not available. Being able to go out and go to the gym. When you arrive at the gym, that you're there to work, and you're able to dedicate that time to be there. It's like arriving here at the academy. You're there to work, and it's really tough to be able to just do that at home and embrace that for some folks. And I totally get that, and I'm sympathetic towards it. And that's another reason why I'm frustrated that after 120 days, I haven't seen boo from people who are making the rules about what we are allowed to do, about suggestions on how you can limit your exposure to these things beyond locking yourself in your house. There are things you can do, and you should be able to get some guidance on that.
I dig it.
Yeah,
I think we'll end there.
Sounds good.
So just to recap, get some zinc, vitamin C, vitamin D,
Omegas.
Love the omegas.
Get your skin nice.
And you do a multivitamin?
I do.
Multivitamin.
Yep, Centrum men's one a day, any of that crap. They all have, they all have a good amount. You want to make sure that you're getting a good amount of vitamin A. You want to make sure you're getting a good amount of vitamin B, vitamin C. Okay, and B comes in multiple categories, of course. B6, B12. They do different things, but multivitamin, the typical ones on the market are encompassing the full amount of what you would need.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
You guys heard it, all right? Let's not be scared. Live your life. See ya.